gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Bass in your face.
What the hell is going on down there?
Bass in your face.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negro. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or are watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions. But not everyone uses logic. So that reason it is called Uncommon Sense. I also have another YouTube channel called Latina Diaspora, where we discuss issues pertaining to Latinos in the United States. The link to that channel is in the description. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and the subscriber mode has been enabled. Meaning, if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to subscribe to the channel. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who already subscribed to the channel. Whether you've been a supporter from the very beginning or just recently joined as recent as today, I really appreciate your love and continued support. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter into your devices and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notifications to all. So therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight is conflict resolution. So basically, what I'm going to be sharing with you is some principles that I believe will be beneficial if you truly wish to resolve conflicts. Okay. One thing to bear in mind that you have to be mindful and open to all points of view, and you cannot just think centered on yourself. But before we get into the main topic, we're going to have another episode of In My Words. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is last night I had the blessing of being on the panel with my brother from another mother, Georgia, regarding sexual purity. So basically, what we did was we defined what it is and why sexual purity is so important. Because when you practice intimacy outside God's plan, what you're doing, you are in effect sinning against your own body. And there are many consequences that are attached to it. First of all, there is the risk of catching sexual transmitted diseases. There's also the risk of exposing yourself to demonic influences, not to mention unwanted pregnancies. And of course, the most gravest of all consequences is to spend eternity in a place called hell. Um, if you die without repentance. Now, I understand people don't like to talk about that hell and things of that nature. People don't like to talk about consequences. But one thing we all have to bear in mind that for every action there is a consequence. Um, and depending on the actions that you're taking will determine where you're going to spend eternity. So, that's something to consider. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is that now there's a situation where there are many men that have chosen not to pursue relationship with the opposite sex. And there are many factors regarding that. Some of them have been burned by very toxic relationships. Uh, some of them have been betrayed. Um, some, of, some of them have been taken advantage of. Others have made poor choices regarding their partners. And some women have just truly outrageous expectations and things of that nature. So, considering all the stuff that they've gone through, um, there are men that decided not to pursue relationships, just to learn to live independently. And unfortunately, that's the results when uh, people make poor choices, people have outrageous expectations, people are pursuing relationships, not not to try to create something that will lead to marriage, but because of their own carnal lust and selfish desires. And one thing we have to bear in mind, um, not everyone is feels capable of maintaining a monogamous relationship. And actually, there are people that were meant to be single. Okay, it does not mean that they're less because they're not in a relationship. It does that there's certain people that simply choose to remain single, but yet you don't see it in crashing out in TikTok and talking about how life is unfair and how women have these outrageous expectations, things of that nature. Um, what we all must do is we must um, carefully evaluate what it is that we value. And for those of us who've been hurt and scarred because of a bad relationship, the best thing for you to do is not to pursue another relationship until all those wounds have been healed. Because what happens is when you try to pursue another relationship before giving yourself time to heal, what you're doing is you're bringing the emotional scars into another relationship and you're creating more scars for yourself. And and the way to look at it is that you have to love yourself before you can love others. And part of loving yourself is to recognize that you have scars that need to be healed. And of course, this is something that I have discussed and I will continue to discuss now as we're approaching the holidays because next week is Thanksgiving. So we are all approaching the holiday season. And for many of us, it's a happy time because we will be with family, loved ones. We will eat good food. We will enjoy each other's company and things of that nature. But for some people, this is not a happy time. For those who are dealing with the first holiday without a loved one, is a bittersweet time. Also, there are those who are lonely. There are those who have mental health issues. Um, Unfortunately, the cases of depression rise during the holidays, as well as thoughts of self-deletion. So, if you see someone that acting peculiar, maybe they're getting a little bit angry, try to show a little patience and try to show a little grace. It could be that maybe they're hiding some hurt. It could be that maybe they're trying to deal with depression. So try to be patient with them. And another thing to bear in mind, while the fourth Thursday of November is the day of the year where we all gather to give thanks, every day should be a day of Thanksgiving. Every day we should be thankful um, for the fact that we are alive, we have homes, we have loved ones, and always bear in mind that there is someone out there that having a worse situation than that you have. And with that being said, we're going to go into the main topic. Now, before I begin, let me just state for the record that the link to join the panel has been pinned. Should anyone wishes to hit that link and all publicly clear. If I never seen you before, if I never heard of you before, I will insist that you come up in the backstage to make sure that no one tries to flash any pornographic images, which will cause the people of YouTube to take down their stream. Once it's been determined that you are going to abide by my guidelines, I'll let you on the panel. And yes, this is my guidelines. Okay. Uh, I endeavor to maintain a place where people can have mature conversation and people can express their point of view. But I will insist that people are mutually respectable with each other. So with that being said, we're going to go on to the topic. Now, what is conflict resolution? Conflict resolution is when it's a situation when you're having a disagreement or an argument with someone. It could be because of anything something major, something minor. Um, One thing we all bear in mind that we are all individuals, so not all of us are going to look at things the same way. We're all going to have different points of view regarding each situation. Now, the very first thing that you need to do in order to have conflict resolution, both parties must be calm. Okay, and this is very important because when you're arguing, when you're yelling, um, you're not thinking logically, you're thinking emotionally, and you're basing everything on emotions. And what you're doing is you are reacting, not analyzing. So it's very important that in order to have conflict resolution, first of all, the parties involved must be in a state when they can clearly and without emotion state their issues, state their grievances. That's very important. And one thing we all have to understand is that there are two sides to every issue. Okay. Meaning, uh, I may have some truth and you have some truth. So the very first thing is get to the point when you are able to calmly articulate what 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 is the conflict, what is the issue that you have with this person. Now there's certain principles that I would like for you to consider. First of all, do not take it personally. Okay, what I mean is don't react emotionally. Once you get to the point when you're able to discuss a topic calmly, what you will do is you will explain to the other party what the person said or what the person did that triggered you, that bothered you, that offended you. Or it could be what the person didn't do or what the person didn't say. Okay. Because you can have conflicts regarding words or action that the other party did, or words or actions that the other party didn't do. Okay. Now, okay, so what you would do is you will calmly and rationally explain yourself. You will calmly and rationally explain to the other person how that person's words, that person's actions triggered the response that you had. How the other person's words or actions trigger something in you which causes you to argue and lash out. Now after to you explain yourself, you explain why you were triggered, why you were upset. Listen to what the other person is going to say. Now, depending on how the other person will respond, some people will explain themselves as far as why they said what they said or did what they did. Or what they might do is they might state, well, I disagree. They might state, well, I responded the way I did, okay, because I overreacted or because of what you said. So it's a dialogue. You express your point of view. You expresses your side of the conflict, and you allow the other person to express their side on the conflict. After both of you are given the opportunity to express themselves, what could happen is the following. There could be a dialogue as far as what to be said, what action to be said, or words to be said, or action to be taken to avoid the situation. And then you're able to reach a consensus regarding a solution that both parties can agree on. That would be the ideal situation. That both of you would be able to come into resolution. Perhaps both parties will apologize. Perhaps both parties will admit, well, okay, that they overreacted. That would be the ideal outcome. Now there might be situations where the other person will express the point of view that they did nothing wrong, that they didn't say anything wrong, that what they perceive is what they said or they was correct. So that leaves you in a situation where you need to decide. Is this person important enough to maintain to maintain ties with, even though this person this person does not see things your way? Or perhaps you need to distance yourself for a certain length of time. Okay? Because one thing we have to bear in mind is that not everyone will be at that stage where they're able to see what they say or do affected you. Now you can try to be the better person, the more mature person, and see how your words and thoughts and actions may affect the other person. One thing we all have to bear in mind, and I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say this. You cannot control what other people say or do. You control what's going to be your response. And let me explain to you what that means. You're in a position to determine what's going to be your next course of action when people say things or do things that you don't like, that trigger you, that bother you. And truth be told, there may be some people that for your own mental well-being, you may need to avoid. Okay. It doesn't mean that you hate the person. It's just that you love your inner peace. You love your well-being to the extent that you're not going to continue to be with people that's going to rob your peace. That you're not going to associate with people who cannot understand why their words and their actions bother you. And from time to time, we're going to deal with people like that. And there may be times when you don't have to just have to distance yourself. Okay. And this is something many of us have to do. This is there have been times where that I had to stop associating with other people because in my estimation, they were too toxic or they did not respect my boundaries. They did not respect who I am as an individual. Okay. And truth be told, you have to love yourself to the extent that to avoid negative influences. Because what they will do is that they will take away your peace. They will become emotional vampires. And they will use you just for their own selfish purposes. For conflict resolution to take place, it requires that all parties involved to be able to articulate themselves in a clear, mature manner. It takes to be able to see the other point of view. Okay? And you also have to listen to what the other person's saying. Not hear, listen. Meaning that you need to be able to see where they're coming from. You need to be able to see how your words or reactions affected that person as well. Just as you want that person to understand how their words and their actions affected you. Okay. That requires maturity, which unfortunately not everyone has. And we have all seen it, in our walks of life, where we see people that create conflicts. We have seen people who, instead of trying to resolve conflicts, act emotional, act entitled, and exhibit toxic behavior. Okay. We have seen it, especially here on social media, okay, where you have whole sectors created by people who have issues. And we see what happens when people are unable to resolve issues mature. People will yell, people will scream, people will curse each other, people will do all sorts of nasty things. People will publish confidential information. People will make crazy accusations. People will make threats. People will, in extreme cases, they will cyberbully. They will harass. And in other extreme cases, they may levy false charges against you to law enforcement, to children's services, and paint a certain narrative which is not factual. Now, one of the things that I and other content creators had to deal with is people who know virtually nothing about us and paint false narratives. And it's been my philosophy that for the most part, it's just let them paint the narratives that they wish. First of all, the people who know me know what type of person I am. Okay. And those individuals who do not know me, but they are easily influenced by what someone will say, with a certain narrative. I mean, there's nothing I can say or do. Which is why, again, I keep saying the same thing. You cannot control what other people say and what other people do, but you control how you're going to respond. Okay. And truth be told, there's certain people that create conflicts to try to elicit a certain response from you. And sometimes the reason why they do what they do is to have issues of low self-esteem. And the only way that they can feel good about themselves is to talk crap about others. So of course they're gonna paint false narratives. Of course they're going to lie. Of course they're going to distort. Of course they're going to say things, everything under the sun, and they're going to call you anything but a child of God. Okay. But the thing to bear in mind is that they're the ones with the issue, not you. But the worst thing you could do is try to speak with the person that you have a conflict with when you are angry. That is the worst thing to do. And the reason why I say that, first of all, because you're functioning on pure emotion. You're functioning on reaction. Okay. So you're not going to be able to think clearly. You're not going to be able to think rationally. Okay. You're going to be thinking in emotion. And when you think in emotion, sometimes you say things that are hurtful. Okay. And what you have done is you made a bad situation into a worse situation. So, and this is what I tell people all the time. Do not try to talk to me when I'm angry. Okay? Do not try to talk to me. First of all, because I'm going to be functioning on emotion. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be angry. Okay? And I'm going to be hurt. So obviously, what I will not be in the proper frame of mind to articulate clearly and logically why am I triggered, why am I bothered. Okay, so that's why you wait until parties involved are able to cool down. And you will see soon enough when they have cooled off, they'll be able to discuss logically why they were upset, why they was upset with you, why they was upset with you regarding what you say, did or didn't do. Never try to resolve an issue if you haven't tried to calm down. Never try to resolve a conflict when you're angry. Never try to resolve a conflict when you're upset, because you're not going to be able to think clearly. You're going to respond in emotion, and as I like to put it, your brain will be in neutral and your mouth will be in first gear. Meaning you're going to speak without filter, which means you're going to say things that, if you're not careful, you might regret saying. So that's the reason why you wait until you calm down. You articulate what the thoughts and the words of the other action. And allow and listen. That's a key. Listen to what the other person has to say. It could be that maybe there was a misunderstanding. Things happen. When two people get angry, um, they're not able to articulate clearly. They're not able to express themselves well. And there may be misunderstandings. When you calm down, there's an opportunity to clarify anything that you misunderstood and to clarify what was the true meaning, which is why you wait until all parties calm down, which is why you never try to resolve a conflict when you're hurt, angry, upset, or frustrated. Okay. Now, for the benefits of those who are coming in now, the topic for tonight is conflict resolution. So I was just like sharing with those what's needed for conflict resolution. Okay. You try to resolve conflicts. If the other person is not willing to resolve conflicts, maybe it's just best not to deal with that person, at least for the time being, until it gets to the point when the other party is willing to have a mature conversation. And sometimes they may never get to that point. And you will see and you would know in time those individuals who wish to resolve conflicts and those individuals for reasons do not wish to resolve conflicts. Okay. And in time, you're going to learn the difference. And some people, sometimes you may have to part and go your separate ways. And sometimes, unfortunately, the separation might be permanent. It's sad, but that is the reality. Because when everything is said and done, you must be concerned about your well-being. You must be concerned about your inner peace. You must love yourself to avoid those who's going to be too toxic to be with. And all you can do is just leave them be, say a prayer for them, and just keep going. Now, I have been talking for a while regarding conflict resolution. So if anyone wishes to hit that link, they can do so. The link is there. If no one wishes to hit the link and opine, then I'll start to wrap things up. I don't claim to be an expert. I am just simply sharing what's been my personal experiences when it comes to dealing with conflict resolution. Okay. And there'll be cases when you'll be able to resolve conflicts amicably. And there'll be times where it's not going to be possible. But you're going to know, but you're going to be able to discern the difference. Now tomorrow's topic will be on maintaining your inner peace. Okay, which is very important. Okay, why? Because the fact of the matter is, there may come a time when there's going to be certain individuals, they're not content to see you in a peaceful state. That's going to test your boundaries. That's not going to respect your inner peace, and you're going to have to learn how to deal with those individuals. Okay, these are tough. As I stated before, I will be sharing my views regarding different types of topic when it comes to mental health issues, especially now when we are approaching the holidays, and especially in light of the fact that the cases of people being depressed will rise. So we have to find constructive ways to maintain our inner peace. Because when everything is said and done, you need to love yourself and take care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. Physically, make sure that you maintain a healthy lifestyle, like a well-balanced meal, physical activity, getting sleep that you need. Your keeps us mentally well by not letting yourself be triggered by other people, and preserve your mental well-being, and of course your spiritual well-being, which is your relationship with God. Okay, and making sure that everything is fine regarding God Almighty. Now I understand not everyone believes in God, not everyone believes in the same concept of God, but in order to be well, you need to be well physically, you need to be well mentally, and you need to be well spiritually. Think of it as a three-legged stool. In order for the stool to work, you must have all three legs. So you must, in order to be well, you must be well physically, mentally, and spiritually. Which is why going into November and December, I will be sharing my views regarding issues regarding mental health. Definitely, I will be discussing why you shouldn't self-delete at some point. I have discussed this before. I will share it again, and of course, I will share resources. In case you are struggling with thoughts of deleting yourself. Let me just check and see. My apologies. It's just that every now and then I do have to check and see if anyone's watching on Instagram. Okay. Oh, and before I go, I just want to say a huge shout out to my supporters, who I affectionately refer to them as the uncommon folk. Okay. Um, I've been blessed with the amount of growth that this channel has achieved. We are actually, believe it or not, we are approaching 1K subs. And there might even be a possibility we might reach 1K before the end of the year, or definitely by early next year. So what I will do is, when I officially make 1K subs, I will dedicate a special live, um, mainly to, first of all, to thank all of those who supported the channel, and of course, God Almighty. Okay, because without God Almighty, nothing can be done. And I acknowledge my need of Him every single day. So, being that no one is going to hit the link and no one's going to join the panel, I'm going to start to wrap this up. But the whole purpose of this stream was to discuss how to resolve conflicts, and as mature, responsible adults, not as children. So just to recap, wait until all parties are able to discuss rationally what the other person said or do, or what the person didn't say or didn't do triggered you. Explain yourself calmly and allow the other person to express their point of view. And hopefully you are able to resolve your issues. And if for some reason that you're not, at least you tried. And then at some point, you may just have to distance yourself from that individual until that individual is prepared to accept your boundaries and deal with whatever issues that you have. So, in any case, the playback end, do your own thing. All are welcome to express their comments after the stream is over. All that I ask is try to keep it respectable, because if you're going to say anything offensive, they're only going to get deleted. And if there's anyone that found this content to be beneficial, if they wish to share it, fine. I would appreciate all those that continue to spread the word regarding this channel. Okay. For me, this is a labor of love. Okay. I do this every week. Hopefully you are enriched with my content, and I do take constructive criticism. That is what I do. So with that being said, we're going to close the same way that we always close. We must do everything possible to avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged. Because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by the stupidity and massive insanity. And of course, whatever we say or do to the glory of God. Now, tomorrow I will share what will be the topic for Thursday's live, which will be done on my other channel. Okay. So with that being said, thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you very much for your understanding. And we'll see each other real soon. Take care, stay blessed, and peace.